Hello, my name is Mr. Casey, and today we will talk about our precious world and what makes the environment so valuable. Let's get started by talking about what we will cover in today's lesson. So at the end of today's lesson, you should be able to talk about why the environment is so important and what dangers the environment is facing. We'll also talk about the dangers of today's virus pandemic and a vocabulary that's related to what we're dealing with today in our environment. We'll also talk about how the rest of the world impacts what happens here in Vietnam. Okay, so we have the environment and we have Vietnam and how those things are connected together. Then we'll talk about how to use context clues to help you understand more vocabulary. Okay, we'll explain that a little later in the lesson. What is a context clue? And then we will practice reading using those context clues so we can make sense of words that have more than one meaning. Ready? Here we go. So on page 312, 313 in your book, we see this picture of our precious world. Okay, so when we look at this picture, what makes our environment so valuable? What are we looking at here in this picture? First, we see a polar bear standing alone out on the ice. Okay, so one of the things that's happening, what makes our environment so valuable, is animal extinction. Okay, why are these animals so valuable to us? Why are they part of our precious world? Because they are part of all of our lives. Okay. Next, we see the ice breaking up. Okay, something that's happening in the environment right now is that we are losing the polar ice sheets at the top of the earth and the bottom of the earth. The ice is melting. Why is that a problem? The problem is that will cause the sea levels to rise. Okay, if we lose the ice and the polar ice sheets at the top and bottom of the earth, then the level of the seas will rise, and then we will start to lose land. Okay, we will lose fertile land for farming. Okay, fertile land we've talked about before in history class. Fertile land we use for growing food. If we don't have enough land, then we don't have enough food to survive. All of these things are connected together in our environment and our precious world. So that's what we're seeing in the picture today. So what are the dangers that our environment is facing? Okay. What you can do now is just pause the video for 2 minutes and write down what you think are the biggest dangers that our environment is facing right now. Okay, here's one. Overpopulation. Okay, if there are too many people on the earth, then that causes many problems. Okay, one of them is pollution. All of us as people, we create pollution. Okay, that pollution goes into the air, it goes into our water, and it affects the food that we eat, and it affects the rest of the planet, the other animals and plants that live on the planet with us. We also are facing climate change. Again, in the picture you see that the ice is melting. Why is the ice melting? Because the climate is warming. Okay, and as the climate warms, then everything changes about our world and how we live in it. We're also facing a loss of biodiversity. Okay, biodiversity. Bio means life. Diversity is things that are different. So if we start to lose different kinds of life, that causes much, much greater change in our environment. We're seeing this right now in the oceans. We're seeing this in our forests. Okay, we're seeing lots of biodiversity disappear on the planet, and that changes everything about how we live in this place. So, next, what about for us in Vietnam? Again, pause the video for just 2 minutes and write down in your notebook what you think are the dangers for us here in Vietnam. What are our environmental dangers that we are facing? how can we live together with our environment? Okay, you see the picture of the wolf there. It says, see how humans affect the environment. How do humans affect the environment? Our actions can make the world better or worse. We may not know that some of the things we do harm plants and animals. Okay? So what can we do now to take better care of our environment and to live in peace with the place where we live? Again, stop the video for just 2 minutes and write down some ideas of what you think we can do now to live in peace with our environment, to have a better environment. Okay, so here's a couple ideas that I have. One, we reduce our use of oil and fossil fuels. Fossil fuels come from the ground, so does oil. When we burn those things, what happens? They create greenhouse gases that go into the atmosphere and warm the atmosphere. When the atmosphere is warmer, then we have climate change. That's why we see ice melting in the polar caps. Okay. Another one, we need to clean up our lakes, rivers, and oceans. We see that here every day. Right? We need fresh water to live. We need fresh water to drink. We need fresh water for our food, for our animals. Okay, so if we have dirty water everywhere, no one can live well. So we need to clean up our lakes, rivers, and oceans. The next one, stop using plastics. We use plastics every single day. But what is the problem? The plastics don't go away. They stay in the environment. So they are in the land, they are in the water, and then they end up in the animals. And this causes problems for all of our environment, not just for humans, but for all of the biodiversity of the planet. Okay? And preserving wild animal habitats. There are so many humans on the planet right now that we have taken away the habitat or the place where animals can live. And so that affects the environment as well. Okay? Do you have more ideas about this? We'll come back to this at the end, okay, and see if you have more ideas about how we can live together with our environment. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is using context clues to understand vocabulary. Okay? So first, let's understand the word context. Okay, you see it says academic vocabulary, context. Context is the surrounding text near a word or phrase that helps explain the meaning of the word. Okay, context is the words around it. Okay, so context clues give us an idea of what something might mean. Okay, so there are many words in English that have more than one meaning. So to understand them, we can use context clues. Okay? So let's look at the example here on this page. It says some words in English have multiple or more than one meaning. For instance, the word well has more than one meaning. Rosa felt well enough to go to the concert. That means she is not sick. And my uncle gets water from a well. A well is also a deep hole in the ground. So those words have the same pronunciation, but they have different meanings. Okay? So how do we use context clues? It says how the strategy works. When you come to a word that has more than one meaning, use its context or surrounding text to figure out which meaning the writer used. Here's the example. Jan is ready to present her report. Present can mean many things. So, number one, read the entire sentence or paragraph to find other words that might be clues to the word's meaning. Jan is ready to present her report. Okay. Number two, decide if the word names an action, a thing, or describes something. In this example, Jan is about to do something. So present names an action. Okay, a verb. Number three, try to see how the word affects the rest of the sentence. Jan is ready to do something with her report. What might she do? Number 4, restate the sentence. Jan is ready to give her report. Does it mean the same thing? Yes. And then number 5, decide the meaning of the word that makes sense. In this example, present means to give or to share. Jan is ready to give her report or share her report. Now we know which meaning of the word present we are talking about in this context by the surrounding words. Okay? So let's try and practice this. Okay? There are 2 short articles here on this page. Okay? So again, pause the video for a couple minutes and read these 2 articles. The first one, what's the good news? The second one person. There are words that are underlined, okay, and we're going to practice using context clues to understand the meaning of these words in this context, in these articles. So I'll let you pause the video now for 3 minutes and read the words, and then we will talk about the meaning of those words. Okay, so now let's practice what we learned about context clues. So let's look at the first one from the first article. Okay, the word is dim. Dim. This is an adjective or a verb. Here are 3 different meanings. Okay, not shining brightly or clearly, like a light bulb. Okay, not clearly recalled or formulated in the mind. Okay, or of not giving cause or hope for hope or optimism. Okay? So which one of those best describes using that word in context of the article? And if you want, you can pause here and go back to the article to look again. Okay? But what this one's talking about was prospects for the future, dim hope or dim optimism for the future. Okay. The next one is coast. Coast, again, a noun or a verb. Here are 3 different meanings. Okay. The first one, part of land near the sea or the edge of the land. That's a noun. Next one, a run or movement in a vehicle without the use of power. If I have my motorbike and I'm on a hill, I can coast down the hill. That's a verb. Or to act or make progress without making much effort. He coasted through his math class because he wasn't interested. Another verb. So in the article, they were talking about the part of the land near the sea, the edge of the land. Okay. One more example. Program. This one, a noun and a verb, has many meanings. Okay, program. Many of you like to program on your computer a series of coded software instructions to control the operation of a computer or other machines. It can also mean a presentation or item on television or radio. Okay, we can watch that television program tonight. It can be a set of related measures or activities with a particular long-term aim. This is our program of study for while we're at home. And number 4, a sheet or booklet giving details of items or performers at an event or performance. If I go to the Saigon Opera House, they will give me a program that describes what we will experience tonight at the opera. Okay, so in this context, we're talking about C, a set of related measures or activities with a particular long-term aim. This is the program that we will undertake to fix the problem. The last one, waste. Also a noun and a verb. Okay? Here are 4 different meanings. To use or expend carelessly, extravagantly. To waste money. Okay? The second one is time. To pass time or spend time. Waste. Okay? Number 3. Again, a verb, to eliminate or discard as no longer useful after the completion of a process. To waste something. Okay? And number 4 is the noun. Material that is not wanted, the unusable remains or byproducts of something. That is the noun form of waste. And that is the one that is described in the context of the article that we read before. Okay? We'll practice more of this later. So, here is some homework for you to review. We already talked about important environmental dangers that Vietnam is facing in the coming years. So list 5 of those environmental dangers facing Vietnam and how they can affect our everyday lives. Number 2, okay, we talked about some COVID-19 virus words and what we're learning about the worldwide pandemic. See if you can find some more, and we can talk about more. Today we talked about outbreak, we talked about epidemic, we talked about pandemic. So see if you can find some more words in news reports or talking with your friends and family. The next one, we talked about 3 things we can do to improve our relationship with the environment. I gave you some ideas. You give me some more. And then number 4, in your book on page 321, and this is an animal that is almost extinct. So read page 321 about the okapi and write a paragraph to explain why you think the animal is almost extinct. Use your context clues to understand that. Okay, thank you so much, and we will see you again.